Good afternoon and Happy New Year, Colonial fans. I'm Ethan Woy. I'm here with Coach B as part of the 10th episode in the first of the new year of Coach B Weekly. Now, before we talk about this big weekend in NEC play, when we were in the airport waiting for our last flight, got to celebrate the Buffalo Bills making the playoffs for the first time since 1999, and my team, the Tennessee Titans, made the playoffs for the first time since 2008. So, pretty big weekend there, both for the Colonials and for our NFL teams. How excited are you about, the Bills making it back?
I'm very excited for the Bills because of the coach there and what the coach is doing with that organization. And I always have a lot of joy seeing, a coach that, has the principles and the things that, Coach McDermott values into his team. And to see that, rewarded by what happened in Cincinnati, beating the Ravens the way they did. We were there. I mean, obviously, the people back home that's watching, they don't understand, being in the airport and watching that game and then having to board the plane as Cincinnati was on the 50-yard line on third down was really tough. I'm like, oh, man, we got to get on the plane, man, last call. So we're running into the plane, and then, obviously our trainer, Nick Thomas, gets it up on his phone as we're in the aisle there. And I think we were like the only ones on the plane. I think it was like a pretty exclusive flight. And then, seeing, on fourth down like that, Cincinnati pull off that play.
Tyler Boyd there,
the difference between Tennessee and the Bills was it was a little bit more exciting on this end and a little bit more like uncertainty. But, everyone is win, lose, and they made the play. It was a great season for the Bills because of, the structure and the organization they got there this year, and that those guys really got the most out of themselves. And I always appreciate that. So if the Bills didn't really have the kind of culture and the kind of way about them that they do, I wouldn't take so much, into it. And so I don't really usually get caught up in any other team but our own. But I'm really happy for them. Me being from Buffalo, obviously there's a pride of where you're from, and that's great. But it's more about what that program is representing, even on a professional level, where it's so hard to get those guys sometimes to buy into, what that family and team concept is. He seemed to have done that. And, I talk to people about that sometimes, and some people just, they've never experienced that with the team. And I'm touching on that now because it's something that's come up a few times that, until you've kind of been a part of a team and you've pushed yourself to play at such a high level and expect so much out of yourself, demand so much out of you and your teammates, sometimes people just don't know what it feels like to really go to that where the Bills are going now and feel like they've really done it together. That's priceless. I mean, people have to understand that, you haven't been in that position, you won't know what it feels like. It's priceless to feel like you've given up so much, you've sacrificed, and you've been selfless, and you've gotten
to get rewarded.
That's right. It's great to feel that we don't do these things for rewards. The rewards really is that feeling that you have with the team. So it's nice to see them, get to that spot now, and hopefully they can go in there and do well.
Yeah, I can say, and plus they play on Sunday, in between LIU Brooklyn and St. Francis Brooklyn. So I know you'll be preparing for St. Francis Brooklyn there then, but you might get a chance to catch a little bit of that game.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that we find a way for I can, to get there and to cheer them on because they're doing great stuff.
Yeah. Now, like I mentioned, there's a pair of wins to open up NEC play. First off, on Friday against Fairleigh Dickinson, a 77-68 win there. Shared the ball very well in that win. Had an assist on 19 of your 27 field goals. And, for having a 10-day break in between games, it seems like there wasn't really too much rustiness, at least on the offensive end.
No, we came out and we started playing with a pretty good pace. We made some good plays offensively. We got into a little bit of a rhythm, and that was good to see. Obviously coming off of the break that we did, we have to make sure that we get back hungry again and get our timing back. So, we had to push ourselves in practice, getting back to that point. So I was really happy to see that we got into a little bit of an offensive flow. I expected us to make, some defensive mistakes and things like that, and we did, but the effort was consistent for 38 of the 40 minutes. The last 2 minutes, I want to couple that in with our effort for the first 38. But that first 38 minutes of that game, we were really doing a good job of battling those moments and adjusting to some of the things that we were doing wrong or things that we were a little bit rusty on. And I was proud of that, and then we just got to finish better.
Yeah, and then in the second win there was a 91-57 win at Sacred Heart. A pretty dominant performance, maybe one of the most dominant performances in single game program history. Just some of the few tidbits from that game: shot 62% from the field, the second highest mark in single game history. The 34-point margin victory was the highest ever against Sacred Heart. 91 points in that game were the most in an NEC game since 2014. You shot 91% in the fourth quarter. It was the first regular season win at Sacred Heart since 2008, as we were mentioning before we went live here. And you held preseason NEC selection Catherine Haynes to 4 points, 5 rebounds in the post there. So really, what went in with all those tidbits? What went into such a performance so dominant like that?
Well, it was a great example of, after we played against FDU, staying within our routine, staying within what we do, coming off of a win. And I wasn't very happy after the FDU game because of the way we finished. We got to finish the race there. We had like an 18-point lead. It was down to 9 in like a minute, and that wasn't anything that we ever want to see again. So coming away from that game, we had to take from that we were not out there just to play the scoreboard, but to just continue to play the game every possession like it's your last, and just keep focusing on the things that we could be doing out there to make it better each possession. And I think that mindset of coming out there, and even though Sacred Heart was fighting, they were fighting. They were, it wasn't the final score was not depicted of what the game was in the first half, and somewhat early into the third quarter. As the second half continued on in the third quarter, we got a couple minutes in, and then we started to make runs, and we started to extend, and we kept going, and we kept going, and that's what I was really happy with. And that was the difference of that story, and that's why those things were able to happen. We've had games this year where we've got into a great flow on both sides of the floor, and we went off and did those things. I remember Youngstown State was a game like that. Yeah, we were really flowing and we were doing great things. That was very similar to the way we finished against Sacred Heart. So just continue to stay after it, continue to read the floor, read the game on both ends. Just playing with a lot of intelligence and passion. We made mistakes. There's no question about it. I already cut that video up. We were already in there today watching it, and we were showing them things that we could be doing better and things we still are looking to develop. Got a lot of individual clips that we could sit down with our players now and do one-on-ones with and stuff. So great stuff to still go forward with, but it was great to see such positive stuff that we can use. There's always those examples of what we're doing wrong, but we got to be able now to handle those clips that we were showing them, those things that we did well, because there was a lot of good clips that we could show them that we did something well, and now continuing to stay hungry and keep going forward and continuing to put another brick on the foundation. That's what we got to keep doing now. So great performance of staying accountable and staying hungry, and that's why we were able to go into that mode of down the stretch there really clicking, and all those tidbits were all possible. We didn't think about anything. We didn't think about numbers. We didn't think about anything. We were just thinking about what's there. Let's go. Let's get it. And let's keep playing.
Absolutely. And in that game, in the second quarter, Megan Smith hit a trifecta from the wing to get her 1,000th career point. She's the 23rd player in program history to do so. I know we talked after that game about how proud you were about her reaching that milestone, especially with the way she plays. But for those who might not have read the story or whatever, could you expand a little bit upon how proud you are about her?
Absolutely, would love to. As we were talking before, to score 1,000 points in a career is very special. I don't want to take that away from anybody. I put a certain level of specialty to that when you don't force shots, and you're not a volume shooter, and you've played the game for your 4 years, reading the floor and taking what the defense gives you, and that's really what makes it special to me, is to score 1,000 when you shoot at a great percentage. That to me is what Megan Smith did when it's scoring this 1,000 points, and that's what I expect her to continue to do going forward. I've had 1,000-point scores, and the most important thing that we remember about that is scoring basketball is just one part of the game. But it's part of the game. And when you reach a milestone and you do it in the way Megan did, you got to be very happy, and you got to understand that there's a lot of lessons to be learned with what I'm saying about how she did it. And hopefully, we'll have more players, get to that milestone, and they'll understand is doing it a certain way is what's important. And that's what I explained about Megan Smith with her 1,000 point. Is, she did it with playing as a team player, playing unselfish basketball, never going into a game worried about I got to get my shots.
Right.
And that's so common in our culture these days is that, you know, I got to get this many shots and I'm not getting my shots. And that's just not for us.
Right.
It's just not the way we think of things. Right. So I'm proud of her doing it the way we do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, looking at the stat sheet today, NECA's leading the team with like 11.3 points, and it's like 9.7, 9.5, 9.5, 7 point. Like, it's very balanced here. It's you know, a little bit of a different team compared to, you know, last year with Anna Nicki obviously being the top option there. So what's going into this balance here offensively?
Well, you have different teams and you have different players in different roles, and then they find themselves in different ways. You know, really just taking what the defense gives us and just having a balanced attack right now. You know, we never set out to, you know, this person's going to get, you know, this many points or that points, or, you know, we never figure it in that way. It just kind of, things just happen how they happen with us just going out there playing the game. Having balanced scoring is great because, you know, as far as, you know, when teams are looking at us, they realize that, you know, any one of us could have a big day. You know, obviously, you know, when we went out there, Hanukkah had some you know, big days with scoring, and there's been other games where, you know, some of the other players like Laura Carrasco, who when we went out to California had a big game and knocked shots down. That's great, and you know, that's not something that we do it because we're worried about the other team and what they're looking at. It's just great for us to know that team can count on each other to say, hey, the reads for you today. You're getting loose. You're getting open shots. You're getting what you need. And you're willing to do it, and that's what everyone has to be willing to do. Is, you know, if the shot's there to knock it down, if the play's there for them, then make it. If you can set somebody else up, and just continue to see how we can do better at that. And I think that's why things have been so balanced this year. Is everyone's willing to serve. Yeah,
absolutely. And you mentioned about Hanukkah Ikematsu. Like you mentioned, she said she had a big weekend, 48 points over the 2 games. Didn't seem like, for me, like, it didn't feel like she missed a shot really. She shot here 65% from the field and 76% from 3-pointers. Now, could you expect, or going into this weekend, did you expect like her to have a game like this at such an early part of her career?
I'll tell you something. To say I expected it, I never try to ever make expectations about anything.
Right.
So it's a little different. I mean, you know, because that word is so commonly used, because we do have expectations in our lives that we expect every day when you wake up that certain things are going to be a certain way. But when it comes to competing in our games, I don't ever go into a game with an expectation that someone's going to score or someone's going to do this or that. What I expect is that if it's there, that we'll take it.
Right.
And I would be lying if I said I didn't see on video and see things that I could say, well, I could see Hanukkah, you know, really having some games with the way she's been, you know, running the offense or getting, you know, shots that she can have that she's not taking. And so, you know, that moment I felt was coming. Whether it was this weekend or whenever it happened, I felt it was coming just because, you know, she's growing and she's learning every day, and she's taken to the teaching really well, and that, you know, we pride ourselves on our development. All the players that have come through this program that have developed into players like, you know, we mentioned like the Anna Nicki Stamalampers and the Artemis Spinoos and stuff like that. Those players that have developed through the program, they were not the player they were when they came into the door. And then when they left a different person, a different player, and that's what we're developing. And so I'm seeing Hanukkah really take to that just like they did. And I could see the development every day, and I'm wanting to get better. So, you know, when that moment were to be there, I guess I expected her to seize the moment, and she did, and I'm really proud of her for that. So doing a good job, and did a good job this weekend, and, you know, she's just got to continue on and continue to learn and get better.
Yeah, and then also another you know, big part of the program is obviously the work in the classroom, and it was announced today that, you know, I had a 3.69 team GPA for the fall semester. So really, you know, what went into, you know, again, success in the classroom like every single year here?
Well, you know, just having things in place early on, you know, obviously communicating through the recruiting process when the new players are coming in, that they know what's expected of them, and the returners to remember, you know, what they did last semester and what they did last year that was so special, finishing second in the country. And, you know, understanding why that happened, not because we could just, you know, show up to class every day or, you know, study just a little bit and be able to go in there and do what we did. It takes an effort, it takes a work ethic, and they had to find the joy. And making themselves the best they can be. And that's what really went into it again. As the semester started off early on, everything's, easy and fun, and there's not much going on, but then you take those tests and those quizzes, and you have to be ready to handle that. And so,
especially when you're in the middle of season.
That's right. And with basketball, unlike other sports, when we get into our sport, the winter sport, we're in the middle of two semesters. We start and we're in the middle of the first semester, and then we're in the middle of the second semester all the way through spring break, and hopefully, and into March, and hopefully if you continue to play like we did last year, into the tournament, so deep into March. So you have to be able to handle that, and you set time aside. For the things that are your priorities. And then the other things you kind of fill in when you have a chance. And so, academics and basketball and our work off the court with our charities and things like that, those are our priorities. And then outside of that, when we have time to ourselves, that's when we handle other things. So I think that was another example of that, the priorities being in order. And, we still have room to grow. I'm still always telling them that, we had a good semester again. We have another semester coming up. We got to get a little bit better. Now let's continue to get better, and let's have a better semester this semester, and just do the best you can. Last year, we didn't win the national title. We finished second for academics, but it really wasn't about the number. Even if we would have won it, it was all about doing the best we can do and feeling like we gave it our all, and that's what I'm proud about. So, good semester again. And let's look forward to another chance to do even better.
Absolutely. And lastly here, back to the court, back at home for the first time in NEC play, although you're playing at two different home venues this weekend. Saturdays at PPG Paints Arena with a doubleheader with the men's team against LIU Brooklyn, Mondays against St. Francis Brooklyn here at the NAC. Let's talk about Saturday against LIU. Playing at PPG Paints Arena, I believe it's the fourth home venue that we've ever had here as a program. John Jay, the Chuck, and the NAC, so now PPG Paints being the fourth here. Is there anything different really going into prep for the game down there in comparison to games right here at the NAC?
Well, you just stay within the routine as best as you can. Besides the fact you're playing there, you practice the same way. You just continue to stay focused on what's in between the lines. Obviously, shooting in the different depth perceptions and, the rims and the court and stuff, that's all something you got to make sure you get used to the best you can. But it's, it's really what you make of it. I mean, you go into a away venue and it's loud and it's crazy and things are like crazy around you. If you let that be your focus, then it's going to be. If you let playing in the arena in downtown at PPG, if you let that be a big deal, then it's going to be. It's not, let's play great because we're playing at PPG and it's in the arena. It's our next game. We go between those lines. Whatever's between those lines is what we're focused on.
Let's play great because we're playing basketball.
That's right. Wherever we play, the rims are 10 feet high. The court's the same, size. Just go out there and play the game. Read the floor. Play with intelligence. Play with passion. Don't worry about where you're playing. You always have that excitement when you're doing something a little different, but you got to be able to control that. And at the end of the day, what I always tell them is we go into those games and we work on what's in between those lines. We don't work on anything else. Everything else is here today, gone tomorrow. Between those lines is what we have to live with every day. And so that's what we'll focus on. And it's great for our fans. It's great for the school to have special situations like this where we can go in and play a doubleheader like that. And now let's make the most of it by just focusing on the game itself and nothing else to do with it.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thank you for joining me, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Ethan. Appreciate it.
Saturday against LIU Brooklyn is a 1 o'clock tip, as I mentioned, at PPG Paints Arena. Monday is against St. Francis Brooklyn at 7 p.m. here at the NAC. Both games can be seen on NEC Front Row.